A reading from Exodus. Then God spoke all these words. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an idol, whether in the form of anything that is in heaven above, or that is on the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them or worship them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing children for the iniquity of parents, to the third and the fourth generation of those who reject me, but showing steadfast love to the 1,000th generation of those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not make wrongful use of the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not acquit anyone who misuses his name. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. For 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. You shall not do any work. You, your son or your daughter, your male or female slave, your livestock, or the alien resident in your towns. For in the 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that is in them, but rested the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and consecrated it. Honor your father and your mother, so that your days may be long in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or male or female slave, or ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. That's a prayer that many preachers pray before offering a sermon. The memory of a past priest or pastor may come to mind when you hear the humility and sense of responsibility contained within the plea that the preacher's words be acceptable in the Lord's sight. It's a prayer we heard emerging from the lips of the psalmist this morning in his song declaring the glory of God. And midway through the psalm, we read the following verse. The law of the Lord is perfect and revives the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure and gives wisdom to the innocent. That verse seems to me to serve as a nice bridge between the 10 Commandments we heard in the reading from Exodus and in Paul's letter to the Corinthians, a skeptical appraisal of the nature of human wisdom. On one hand, we have the law, the statutes, the rules, and on the other hand, we have Paul's treatise of what it means to be wise in God's eyes. In holding up this comparison between the reading from Exodus and the epistle, I don't want us to make the overly simplified judgment sometimes made, rejecting the Hebrew Bible in favor of what we might regard as a more enlightened view of God found in the New Testament. Recall Jesus' words in Matthew. Do not think I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have come not to abolish, but to fulfill. However, I do want us to recall that Jesus was part of the wisdom tradition. His teachings are part of the lineage of wisdom literature found in Proverbs, Job, Song of Songs, Ecclesiastes, the Book of Wisdom, and Sirach. Jesus was a teacher who spoke in parables, posed questions far more than he provided answers, and taught through example more than through exhortation. Fundamentalists of every stripe, the Christian, Muslim, and Jewish branches of the Abrahamic tradition, as well as fundamentalist Hindus and Buddhists, pay far more attention to the commandments, to the rules, to strict adherence to a narrow interpretation of law, than to the subtleties, the complexities of human existence, the truth that emerges from actual lived experience in the world. Having passed 72 winters on the third planet from the sun, I've observed that living a good life is a far more complicated proposition than mere adherence to a book of rules. We desperately need wisdom. The problem with the law is that it generally doesn't come with understanding. It might come with a threat, like God's vow to punish to the fourth generation those who worship idols, or with a promise that you'll be rewarded with a long life if you honor your parents. But we live in a post-Skinnerian world. Strict behavioralism has been discredited by modern psychology. None of us respond solely on the basis of rewards and punishments. Human beings are more complicated than laboratory rats. Lately, I've been dipping in and out of a little book written by Kevin Kelly called Excellent Advice for Living. Wisdom I wish I'd known earlier. I've heard Kelly described as the real-life most interesting man in the world. He co-founded Wired magazine, was publisher and editor of Whole Earth Review. He's a college dropout, a self-taught journalist, an economist, a practical thinker, an adventurer, a futurist, and a theologian. His latest book is a collection of 450 modern proverbs for what he says a pretty good life. His work is a 21st century example of the sayings found in the wisdom literature, foundational to all the great religions. These aren't commandments. Rather, they reflect practical, real-world ways of being. Here are a few of my favorites. I'll read some of them twice. Listening well is a superpower. While listening to someone you love, keep asking them, is there more? Until there is no more. I can't tell you how hard that is to do, particularly when you're listening to someone that you don't want to listen to anymore. And you think, I think I understand. I've got it. You don't have to tell me again. But instead to say, is there more? Until there's no more. When you forgive others, they may not notice, but you will heal. Forgiveness is not something we do for others. It is a gift for ourselves. Forgiveness is accepting the apology you'll never get. Forgiveness is not something we do for others. It's a gift to ourselves. Forgiveness is accepting the apology you'll never get. When you can't decide which path to take, choose the one that produces change. Our default mode is usually to choose the path of least resistance, the path that we're on now. Consider choosing the one that produces change. How to apologize. This is an important one. Apologize quickly, specifically, sincerely. And here's the key part. Don't ruin an apology with an excuse. Don't say, I'm sorry I said that about your mother last night, but I had too much to drink. You ruined the apology. I'm sorry I did that particular thing, but I was tired. You ruined the apology with an excuse. Here's another. Whenever you have a choice between being right and being kind, be kind. No exceptions. Don't confuse kindness with weakness. Anger is not the proper response to anger. When you see someone angry, you are seeing pain. Compassion is the proper response to anger. When you see someone angry, you're seeing pain. The greatest killer of happiness is comparison. If you must compare, compare yourself to you yesterday. Someone I love dearly last week was comparing herself to the great anthropologist Margaret Mead. Oh my gosh. Doomed to failure. Your passions should fit you exactly, but your purpose in life should exceed you. Work for something much larger than yourself. Here's one for me. Bad things can happen fast, but almost all good things happen slowly. Almost all good things happen slowly. The best work ethic requires a good rest ethic. Yeah. Criticize in private, praise in public. We are not a body that carries a soul. We are a soul that is assigned a body, not of our own choosing, but in our care. We are a soul that is assigned a body, not of our own choosing, but in our care. When you lead, your real job is to create more leaders, not more followers. When you lead, your real job is to create more leaders, not more followers. If a goal does not have a schedule, it is a dream. If you ask for someone's feedback, you'll get a critic. If you ask for someone's advice, you'll get a partner. Merits saying again. If you ask for someone's feedback, you'll get a critic. If you ask for someone's advice, you'll get a partner. And for those of us growing older, the chief prevention against getting old is to remain astonished. The chief prevention against getting old is to remain astonished. And the last one. Advice like these are not laws. They're like hats. If one doesn't fit, try another. And here's my advice. Use these bits of wisdom to inspire you to create your own list. You may or may not consider yourself wise, but most of us are old enough to have learned a thing or two. And we owe it to the generations that follow to share what we have gleaned from our successes and our failures. We already have plenty of laws. Our generation and the generations that follow need our wisdom. Let us not shrink our responsibility to provide it. Amen.